becomes more detailed over time. It gets deeper and more nuanced. And the times that I'll catch myself throughout the day being present, or the ability to do that, it really cascades into every area of life for me.
That is a ringing endorsement that I would add a +1 to that. Just, it seems the way that I think about it is things move in slow motion. I like your description was better, because the concept of slow motion sounds, sometimes it has a negative connotation, but like the gaps around thoughts, you have the chance to actually decide how this particular person who cut you off in traffic, or this piece of news that you regard as maybe counterproductive that came your way, how you react. And you can recognize those things as thoughts, right? You can either be in the waterfall, or you can stand away and you can look at the waterfall. And I think that's a beautiful way of, this idea, this space around the thoughts. I'm going to also borrow that, if I may.
Yes, I love the idea of the space, because it reminds me of negative space in music, or in visual art. There's something about, you're looking at like Rothko or something, was beautiful. It's really space. And I think that there's something to that, in the sense of the reason why so much beautiful, deep art is really happens in between the lines, for me, speaks to that state of understanding how consciousness really is, and what it's like to be us. And something that you said before in terms of TM costing money, there is something about, if one can afford it, to pay the money to invest. But if you can't, which a lot of people cannot, it's really just mantra-based meditation. If it's something that's like, oh my God, this is too expensive, I couldn't possibly afford this, it's really the repeating of this mantra. You can find other sorts of mantra-based meditation online, which is not the same thing, but it'll get the job done. And I love that you feel comfortable talking about the nuts and bolts of it, because it's really such a powerful thing that I think people need to have access to.
Yeah, and that's the reason it was easy for me to pay the money. And I say easy, coming from a place of privilege and recognizing that, but knowing that it will help that practice reach more people. That's part of what is, that's why I'm not afraid to talk about it. And I think it's, that is the value of contributing to that. As you said, though, getting started, anything, Calm app, the free trial, like any of these meditations online,
YouTube.
Yeah, YouTube. It's like it's available for you, and I'm hoping to. I'm trying to take the surprise out of it if you look into it and don't think that I'm sort of I'm hawking anything. And the flip side of that is not required, and I appreciate your POV there. So this magical space, the space where you get the opportunity to choose your response, to be aware of that you are actually having a thought rather than you are the thought. I'm having the thought that Justin may be triggered because this person pulled out in front of me and, on the 110. You have been outspoken, especially lately, around the use of psychedelics for their role in mental health. And I'm wondering if anyone is at all sort of practiced in this school of thought. Robert Alpert, aka Ram Dass, Timothy Leary, these are, former Harvard professors that were relieved of their roles at Harvard during the psychedelic age for, practicing with LSD. And they have gone on their own personal journeys and now have come around to the role of mindfulness in their lives and pop culture, the benefits and whatnot. And yet there's still a role for psychedelic medicine. You've been outspoken, as have many of our friends. I'm wondering if you can talk about the role of plant medicine for you, in culture, and the relationship that it has, say, with these areas we've been talking about most recently here: meditation, mindfulness, awareness, attention.
Absolutely. I mean, the role of psychedelics have played in my life it started off just taking acid as a kid, and or in my late teens, just messing around with friends and
Recreation. Yeah.
recreation. And looking back now, I'm glad I had those experiences, but it's moved into therapeutic standpoint, and I can't necessarily recommend at this point recreational use for anyone. Um, so taking the ceremonial therapeutic lens of everything and treating these substances as a teacher and as a sacrament and reading and learning about this changed, also in conjunction with mindfulness and meditation, just changed the way that I interface with reality, with other people, with everything. I've seen friends have really profound healing on them. I have seen all sorts of incredible things happen. And I think that all of the people who have been involved in wanting to make these more available, it's the same sort of conversation we were just having about with meditation, where it's like, wow, I've had this experience and I come out of it thinking, oh my gosh, I wish this was cheap and safe and available for everyone with a therapeutic lens. I don't think that mushrooms should just be legal, and I don't think that teenagers should be necessarily just eating acid and just seeing what happens by any means, because there is no culture around, it's no manners and mindful guidance around how these are supposed to be used. In other cultures, there are. Um, in Mexico, families eat psilocybin mushrooms together. You go see a healer, and they'll actually eat the mushrooms and heal along with you. There's all sorts of cultures in which, for thousands of years, for millennia, this has been part of the fabric of society, and it is here in an underground way. But I'm really excited about the fact that the West is trying to figure out how to integrate these into daily life, or at least make them accessible in the same way that, let's say, a meditation retreat is, where you could say, I would like to go out to the desert and stay at this retreat facility and under medical guidance and have these experiences that are completely safe. That's the ultimate goal with all of this work. And then also microdosing is another thing that comes up a lot. And as we know, the mental health care system in the United States has its issues, could be even to be said to be completely broken and
tragic. Yeah,
tragic. And some people have had some really good progress on depression, anxiety, all of the, the big ones that I think psychedelics are there to help and to be an aid through this. They are not a magic bullet. I think on the other side of this, it's really easy to become overly optimistical and fantastically minded about the fact that, like, these things are just going to come in and fix everything. I don't think that's the case. I think it's the combination of all of these things that we know, along with the medicine, and for artists, creatives in particular, something that Paul Stamets says a lot, who's outspoken about all of this stuff, and he's so incredible. But it's the idea that I cannot do what I want with my consciousness is egregious. That especially when you're not hurting anyone else, and you're doing it for personal growth, exploration, spiritual connection. He speaks specifically about it around end of life anxiety for terminal cancer patients and palliative care. There's this whole vast range, from everything from that to just being a human who wants to have some personal growth. I think that in the next decade, this is in the West, is barring some huge catastrophe, and this is all going to happen. And I'm just really, I'm excited that we're living through this right now.
Yeah, it is a clear renaissance. And I think a lot of that affect failed in the 60s because it was identified as recreation first. And I love the qualifiers that you put in and around it. So powerful and help make the case. And, for anyone who's curious, Michael Pollan's book, How to Change Your Mind, very powerful. Paul Stamets' work. There's our friend Tim, we've talked about a couple of times, putting millions of his own dollars on the line in order to advance the research and development of this medicine. It's a lot of people in the comments right now talking about Radona, talking about microdosing,
Mm-hmm.
7-Star Creative, Ash Jensen wants some help with long-term trauma, Yash, Robert Smith, Sarah, Drew Hitchcock. And this is a handful of different platforms are coming in, and this lights up in the context of specifically not recreation but medicine. And what is lost on a lot of people is this is the journey of most substances, right? They're either absolutely legal, then they get clamped down, only to find out that they do have, like, the fact that our bodies have receptors for these chemicals and are able to produce them naturally because we don't have a receptor for things that we can't make. Like, that in and of itself is a simple argument for why it should not be verboten. It should be something that's embraced. Wondering if there are other works in literature that you'd point people towards if they're curious for more.
Absolutely, yeah. There's a magazine online right now, and there's a print too, but they're called Double Blind, and they're a new, young, incredible psychedelic publication, and they have a lot of really functional stuff in there. So if people are wondering about what's the deal with microdosing, what's the deal with this and that, it's a really good. It's almost like Wired Mag for psychedelics, and I've become friends with them, and they're just I'm so into them. There's another book that I'm just reading right now called Entangled Life, and it's not specifically about psychedelics, but it is, and it's by this scientist named Merlin Sheldrake, who's in this documentary called Fantastic Fungi, which I highly recommend everyone watch. But it's a book about the lens of the ecosystem and the earth through mycology, and it has a pretty compelling argument for all of this stuff as well. And then if you want to go deeper, I think Michael Pollan's book, as far as long form goes, is the best intro. Not even just an intro, it's the best overview. It's incredible. Yeah. He's one of my favorite writers in general. I love just reading anything that he writes. To go a little bit deeper, there's a book called Sacred Knowledge by Bill Richards, who has been working at Johns Hopkins with terminal cancer patients and putting together the psilocybin research since before when everything was legal. And this book, it's a little heady, but I actually find it to be super profound. And if anyone wants to deep dive, that's my favorite.
Awesome. Well, I want to put a bow on our conversation over the past hour, and it would be hard to do so with a single question. So I'm going to ask you to walk the earth with me for a second. So what do you trace the role of your own personal creative journey in your health, your happiness, your well-being, your traversing the landscape of the range of emotions? And I realize that's just a massive question, but that helps me at least push your boat in a direction. And like so up for me, if you will, the last 10 years of your life, the awakenings, what do you know to be true, and what are you working on? What direction are you walking in right now at the highest level you can possibly zoom out to?
That is a great, nuanced, deep question. I love that. And I don't know if I've ever been asked anything quite like that before, but
that's my job.
I love that. I love that.
I'm just curious. Like you're in a raft right now and you're rowing, and I want to know what you're rowing towards or away from, or what's sewing together your narrative right now.
The main thing that I've taken from all of this stuff that really sews it together is gratitude. And it sounds corny and it can sound like a platitude, but in if I'm working on music and I become frustrated, if I'm on stage or I'm lacking sleep from living on a bus for 2 months, if I come back to being grateful for any particular experience, it unlocks all of it. And I've learned that in my experiences with psychedelics and with meditation as well, that gratitude is a key, that no matter how difficult something is, it will unlock a state of presence because it's so easy to push against something. So for me, I want my music to become further and further I'm going to push it further and further into gratitude and become more and more grateful to have an audience. It's so easy, especially right now, the music industry, and as I say, the industry meaning the way that we get from music from an artist to the listener is in a huge state of transition. So for me, coming back to saying thanks for the opportunity to be alive and to be creating and be able to share it with anyone and potentially make a difference in someone's life through any one of these methods. That's really my guiding light through all of this.
It seems then not an accident that superposition is a current project for you. It seems intimately related, and maybe I'm making a connection where there's not one, but is there a connection there, and is superposition in service of that? And if so, can you tell us just because we've talked sort of opaquely about superposition and a label that can help, but I just pulled up a note that I see somewhere in your universe: immersion into the inner universe, a meditative antidote to a world of digital overwhelm. Put a bow on what is superposition and how it relates to this direction that you're rowing.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, I hadn't actually made the connection until you said that right there, but there is 100% an aura of gratitude around that whole project, because making ambient music, some of them are meditations and some of them is really just pure ambient music it's a very niche thing. I do it because I love it, I love ambient music. I love music that fills the space, and especially with these meditations, it is my way of painting a picture that I would like to share this lens of gratitude and create rabbit holes back down to this place that's been really meaningful for me. But superposition specifically with my partner Matt Davis and the project is really all about. It's not just ambient music, because that's such a strange umbrella, because ambient music can play in the spa or it can play in the beginning of a creepy Halloween movie. But for us, it's really about drawing the line between healing and music, but not in a way that we're dictating what the listener wants to hear, but it's more creating a space through sound and through high production quality music that can make the listener feel held by the sound. I guess I'll say that.
A little cocoon.
That's right.
You said earlier, frame. I love it.
Audio cocoon.
I'll
take that.
I got to put a plug in for you on your ambient rituals playlist. Big fan.
Love it. Nice. Really?
Love it when you update it. Have it going all the time.
Amazing.
I'm talking about Spotify. Look up ambient rituals, which is that, do you do that solo, or is that you and the other guys in the Glitch Mob? Is that
that's just me.
Okay, cool.
I host it on the Glitch Mob's Spotify, because then all the fans coming in there get to experience it. So it's a little catch for the deeper stuff. But yeah, you can. I think it's on my my Instagram and my website. You can get the link to it there. But there's 35 hours of ambient music. There's not a single filler song in there. I love every song that's in there. So I'm glad that you like it. I hope people can take it and put it on shuffle.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever hit forward. I don't think I've ever hit the next song. I'm always content with what is playing in this. Your curation is masterful, and it is really a cocoon. It's beautiful. And you mentioned your Insta and a couple of other places. I want to give people a little bit of direction where they can find more. What are your coordinates on the internet you'd like to direct people at?
I want to say one quick thing is that if you do find a song that you're hitting skip, please let me know. Just text me and I'll get rid of it. That's
Okay.
really the skip test is important. But you can find me on my website, which I'm in the middle of redoing right now, is boreta.net, BORETA, and then at the Glitch Mob and at Boreta everywhere else on Twitter, Instagram.
Amazing. Huge. Speaking of gratitude, I feel super lucky to have had this conversation with you, and grateful that you are leading the charge in so many ways and inspiring a lot of people towards a new way of thinking and being in the world. Your art, the inspiration that you provide is really valuable. So I want to give a personal debt of gratitude, and hell yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Chase. Thanks for having me. And I just want to also say thanks for everything you do. And the connecting of the dots from different modalities is so close to my heart. I thank you. Keep on fighting the good fight.
Happy to do it. Signing off for everybody out there in the world. We'll hopefully be in your ears again tomorrow.
Hey guys, what's up? It's Chase Jarvis, founder and CEO of Creative Live. You all know that we have more than 2,000 classes and more than 10,000 hours of learning, inspirational, and motivational content on the platform. I'm super excited to announce a new